Welcome to the Think Yourself Healthy podcast, where we challenge you to think differently about your approach to health and wellness. My name is Heather Duranja, and I'm excited to be here with you to take you on the journey from surviving to thriving.
Hello, everybody. On today's episode of Think Yourself Healthy, I have a special guest, Stacy Hartman. She is a business success coach, international speaker, and the founder of the Wealthy Minimalist. She helps the world's leading coaches, consultants, and expert-preneurs transform their lives, their businesses, and their bank accounts without the hustle. Very cool. Good morning, Stace. How are you?
Good. How are you, Heather?
I am fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So I'm really excited to dive in and chat with you because I know everything I read was about you being a business coach, and we're going to shift modalities today, and we're going to talk about your transformation from business success coach to this really cool new technology that's available to us.
Yes, super excited about this technology on so many levels, because what's better than talking about health and wealth and the two biggest things that can transform our lives?
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited to have you on today to be the expert on the healing device called the Healy. I was introduced to this technology, I guess probably late summer last year, 2020. I think it was probably late summer, early fall. And then I stalked the company for quite some time with much hesitation before deciding to dive in and make an investment in the healing device. And just to be completely transparent, it was one of the easiest purchases I've ever made. And it's one of those gifts that keeps on giving. To be perfectly honest, I can't imagine the beginning of 2021 without my healing device. So let's chat.
Yeah, I am so with you on that. It was like when this device, the Healy, entered my space, it was the exact same thing. It was this deep, like every cell in my being was screaming, yes. And as somebody like you who just, when your intuition screams yes, you listen. I couldn't agree more to be able to have this during such a tumultuous time on this earth to just bring grounding and coherence and connection to our higher self has been an incredible gift.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, well said. So talk to me, tell me a little bit about the Healy device for the listeners who are like, what the hell are they even talking about? What is this thing? They're probably frantically Googling while they're trying to drive to work right now. So let's talk about the Healy. What is the Healy? How were you introduced to it? How did you go from business success coach to promoting and letting everyone know how amazing the Healy is?
Yeah, so the Healy, in the simplest terms, is a frequency device that brings your subtle energy bodies into coherence. So this is mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So basically, if you think about from the time we were in the womb and probably even karmically behind, we've had these little emotional mental traumas that we probably don't even remember. And those traumas kind of plant this seed in our energetic system that then eventually can develop into physical symptoms or mental, focus problems or feeling spiritually disconnected, all of those things. So what the Healy does and what frequency does, because everything is energy, is it actually goes to the root, the core of where the disruption in our perfect energetic system happened, and starts to bring the vibration in so that it comes into its natural state, which is pure potential, pure power, and pure health and vitality and radiance. And so rather than focusing on just the symptoms that are showing up, like, oh, I have a headache, I'm going to take some Tylenol, instead it goes all the way to the root about what could be causing that. Where was the energetic disruption that ultimately then led to the physical symptom? And so we've just been seeing amazing things happening by approaching our our bodies from an energetic level as opposed to a physical level. We know energy is infinite and physical matter is limited and finite. So why wouldn't we use an infinite system when it comes to our healing?
Right. Absolutely. Well, for all of those listeners who know me and listen to the show religiously, they know I'm a huge promoter of vibrational frequency and energy and how energy impacts our physical bodies. So tell me, when did this technology become available? How did it get started?
So this is a technology that's actually been around for about 15 years, and actually longer than that. But the founder of the Healy is a leader in energy medicine, in frequency therapy. And so he has a sister company called Time Waver, and there's thousands of practitioners that have been using this technology with hundreds of thousands of people. And the founder's vision was always, what if we could get this into the hands of everyday people so they could be empowered to take full control over their own health and well-being? So while the technology has been proven to really help people in a lot of different ways, the only way you could access it would be to actually go to a Time Waver therapist, have them run the frequencies in their office, and it created a block to be able to, in any given moment, manage our own frequency and vibration and get the support that we needed. So then the founder, again, that vision was, how can I get this in everybody's home and not just in this big machine in an office with certain practitioners? So those machines at that time, I think still to this day, the investment in one of those machines is like $40,000 or $50,000. So it was a high entry point to be able to deliver these healing frequencies to the world.
Okay. And what was that product called? What did they call it?
Time Waver.
Oh, Time Waver. Okay. Because I heard of another product that was on the market that's also like entry point of $40,000. I think it starts with an R. I'll have to look into that, and then I'll message you and let you know. I can't remember right off the bat. So the reality is the technology has been around, it's been utilized, and now it was a matter of bringing it to like the masses.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And so then the Healy was born only in the last 2 years, and it just came to the United States in May of 2021.
Where else can the Healy be found?
All across Europe. So it's currently in 45 countries. We still aren't in some of our bigger markets. So eventually, hopefully in this year, we'll be opening up in Canada and Mexico. So there's still some limitations on how far and who has access to this, as we're just kind of as a company and as a whole, as we're rolling this out into the world. But yeah, so it's just becoming available. It's so new. It's so innovative. It's just been incredible to watch the unfolding.
So I'm going to ask you an infamous question that I have been asked multiple times since getting my Healy device in my own hands and sharing it and showing it to other people. So the infamous question is this: how does it know?
I know, it's so crazy. It's like it totally has its own consciousness. It's like, how does it know?
Right.
So I'm the furthest thing from like a quantum physicist or a scientist, but here's my layman's understanding. And it's that it's able to pick up vibration, right? So our human physical senses can only pick up so much vibration. We're limited as humans to be able to pick up vibration. And so if we think about vibration and frequency of vibration, really dense vibration is moving very slow. And that would tell us that our systems are out of coherence. They're out of their highest potential for well-being. And then when the frequency is really fast, then we're closer to our optimal well-being. And so my understanding is that it's picking up these subtle energies and the frequency of our vibrations, and it can actually read your system. Where is your energy kind of dense and slow and not moving at its optimal rate of health and vitality? And once it picks those up, then it can send in the higher frequency. And there's a energetic process called entrainment, which is the more powerful natural frequency automatically entrains or magnetizes the less powerful frequency into a match, into coherence. So it's reading these subtle things in our energy field and then delivering the frequency to actually call up the energetic match, which is optimal well-being for any system in our body, whether it's our organs or our meridians or our chakras. But it's just reading these subtle energy fields.
So can you explain to us what the difference is between the meridians and chakra fields? And I can't remember the other thing you said.
So this is all so new for me. I mean, like we talked about, coming from like the business space, it's been awesome. I mean, I love to learn probably just as much as anybody else that's listening to your podcast. And so this has been fascinating. It's nothing that I've ever immersed myself in fully learning. So again, I'll explain it in completely layman's, like newbie rookie terms. And there's probably many of you who have way more experience and knowledge. And Heather, you probably can like correct me on some of this stuff. But here's my most simplistic understanding, is that our chakras, our core energy centers, are the things that open us up to being able to communicate with the quantum field, with all possibilities. And there are energy entry points. So these 9 centers, it's like that's where all the energy is coming out, and we're putting all the energy out. And then as the energy comes in, or as the energy is put out, the energy that's coming in is then going through the meridian lines, which just are energetic lines and points that go through our entire body. And then the energy feeds the specific organs, which are all comprised of our 70 trillion cells. And so when you think about like the Healy, for example, when you do a scan, it can pick up meridian, like that you need some support with the energy that's moving through your meridian lines. In my experience, whenever the meridians show up, that's telling me that the Healy's picking up on a deeper emotional or mental trauma, because it's going all the way to the core of my energy system that then's feeding the cells in my various organs. So I always find it fascinating when the meridians come up. The perfect example is the first scan I ever did, it showed lungs. And again, Healy was new for me. It was an intuitive call. And I was like, my lungs are great. I'm breathing fine. There's no issues here. And it almost planted this little seed of consciousness where about a week later, I was talking to my mom, and I said, it was odd though, it showed lungs as the most important thing that my body needed support with. And she looked at me and she said, well, Stace, don't you remember when you were a little girl, whenever you'd get really upset, you would hyperventilate, and we would have to give you a bag and help you with that panic attack. I had no recollection of that. So I was like, of course, there's this emotional trauma in my lungs from the time I was 5 years old that, while it's not an issue for me as an adult, it left a memory there.
Right. So I want to take an opportunity to do a little learning lesson for the audience so that they can have a deeper understanding of why and how powerful this technology actually is. So we're talking about emotional traumas, and we talk about emotional traumas and how emotional traumas, they create imbalance within our cellular physical body. So for me, I'm one of those individuals who really needs to understand the science behind things in order to buy in, right? So for me, I've been on a mission of really trying to do my best to fundamentally understand energy and how energy impacts our physical body. Those who know me know I say all the time, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it's just transferred. And so when it comes to the Healy, I think that understanding its potential is so important, because as you mentioned earlier, this was a complete and total intuitive purchase for me. It was something that I was introduced to, did some research on it, and then literally turned within and asked, is this intuitively in alignment with my practice, with what I'm seeking in terms of my own personal healing and helping to heal others? And what I have found throughout my own journey is that meditation is something that I have an immense amount of resistance to. And so for me, I was feeling really defeated within my own healing journey because of the meditation component, and not feeling as if I was truly being able to go all in when it comes to meditation. So I was kind of looking for a bridge to help cross over between the physical field and the consciousness field, that higher vibrational frequency. And for me, I feel like the Healy is that device that allows me to bridge the gap between the two. So when we experience some sort of emotional frequency, so we have a range of emotions that we can experience, and whichever emotion we experience in the highest vibrational frequency is typically what's going to train our nervous system to be in a baseline default survival type of state. So I know for myself as a young child, I grew up in a very dysfunctional environment, had a lot of traumas, a lot of emotional traumas. And as a result of all of this, I was a sick kid. I was a sick kid. I was the kid who always had a stomach ache after eating. My parents would take me to the doctors. They would run a plethora of tests, and then it would always come back, there's nothing wrong with her. We think it's in her head. And so now I'm being gaslit, right? I'm being denied my reality that I really was in physical pain after eating meals. So the whole point of this is when we experience some form of emotional trauma, we do a really good job of being able to experience the emotion, but we do a really poor job of being able to release that emotional trauma from the physical body. So I need the listeners to get on board so that they can understand how this physical trauma is getting lodged into our bodies at a cellular level that is then creating energetic disruption as the flow of the line, the chakra centers in our meridians. So when we experience this emotional trauma, as a result of this, it triggers the stress response in the body. When the body's stress response is triggered, there is a very specific hormonal cascade that occurs. And as a result of this hormonal cascade of neurotransmitters as well as hormones, it causes an increase in the pH of our blood. It makes the blood become more acidic. And as a result of having acidic blood, it's very dangerous for our heart, lungs, and brain. So the body is going to allocate all of its physical resources to try and bring the pH of the blood into a neutral state to keep us safe and alive. Well, in the process of that, we create what are called metabolic acids. Metabolic acids get into the mitochondria of our cell, which is the ATP powerhouse energetic system in the cell. And when these metabolic acids get into the mitochondria of the cell, they create disruption between protons, neutrons, and ions. And over time, this disruption of these different neutrons, ions, and protons, this is what contributes to cellular damage. We start basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Creating genetic mutations of our DNA. So this is how, when we talk about generational trauma that has been passed on to us, this is how we develop generational trauma. So the DNA of our cells become disrupted from this trauma, emotional trauma that we experienced. And if our ancestors did not clear that emotional trauma out of their own mitochondria, then we are going to inherit that generational mutation. And typically it requires environmental circumstances to take that mutation and turn it into a full-blown disease. That's why here we are in 2021, we have the most advanced medical technology, yet we have one of the sickest populations. We see an increased prevalence of chronic disease, and we're not getting any better. So for me, this was a do or die type situation. Like, I have to help bring this technology to others so that they can start living a higher quality of life without having to invest a crap load of energy and effort into trying to make it happen. So for me, I knew the power of meditation. I knew how beneficial meditation was at helping to clear out these energetic imbalances at a mitochondria level. But I I just didn't value putting the time, setting aside the time, the frustration of the self-judgment when trying to go into meditation. So for me, the Healy was a huge, huge solution. So what are your thoughts, Stacy? I feel like I just went on a tangent.
Oh my gosh, I just learned so much. Thank you for that. I love the science behind all of that. And I love that you brought up meditation. So that's the thing that I immediately was called to so deeply with the Healy as well. Is so far all of the tools that we have in our tool bag to promote our own self-healing require the mind and a releasing of the mind to get to the place where the healing happens. And it just takes a long time. So it's no wonder why meditation is so frustrating for so many of us, because the same thing we're trying to heal, we have to use to get the healing. It's like this push-pull. And the Healy, you don't have to use your mind. Now, what's awesome is, to me, I always think about the Healy, it's an amplifier. It's a tuning fork to who we already are. It is not a Band-Aid. It is not a, end all be all. It's just a way to amplify the efforts that we're already putting forward that can bypass the mind and lead to faster integration and amplifying the healing that will happen in its own time. But heck, we are in a crisis when it comes to our health. So why not speed up the healing and have a tool that's so at our disposal to do so?
Right. Well, and I think another benefit is that for individuals who have experienced significant trauma throughout their lifetime. Now, I do want to make a statement when it comes to using the word trauma. I think that there is a huge stigma around the word trauma, and we think that when it comes to trauma, it has to be some very horrific circumstance in order for that to equivalent to trauma in the physical body. But the reality is, trauma could be something as simple as you wanting your mom to pick you up at 3 years old and hold you, and mom didn't have the capability of doing it in that moment. Therefore, our undeveloped conscious brain, subconscious brain, takes in this information but doesn't have the ability to sort through it rationally and just assumes, I am not worthy and deserving. My mother does not love me. Boom, this equates to physical trauma within the actual body. So I just wanted to make that statement so that those listening don't think that they had to have gone through some major life event or circumstance in order to qualify for having experienced some form of trauma in their adolescence and adulthood. So where was I going with this? Oh, one thing that I think is important to mention, I know for myself particularly, being that I did experience trauma at such an early age and had a very dysfunctional environment that was not supportive of me building quality coping skills to help with all of this stuff. But physically, my brain also took a hit. So when the brain is in its growing stages and we experience trauma, emotional trauma, there's 3 specific parts of the brain that are impacted significantly. One of them being the amygdala. This part of the brain, when we experience trauma, it grows. This is the part of the brain that supports panic, anxiety, fear, stress, all of the negative emotions that are associated with how we typically don't want to feel. This part of the brain becomes enlarged. Then we have our hippocampus, which allows us to take short-term memory and convert that into long-term memory. This part of the brain is it shrinks. So now we have less capability of being able to take short-term, joyful, happy moments and convert them into long-term memories that we can associate with. And we have a part of the brain that has grown that is supporting fear, panic, anxiety, all of the things. And then finally, we have the prefrontal cortex, which allows us to regulate our emotions. This is also disrupted. So for an individual who is trying to heal themselves, there's a lot of things that are subconsciously working against an individual from them being able to tangibly take the action and maintain consistency around it to actually experience the benefits. So for me, when I discovered the Healy, I thought, wow, this is genius, because I tangibly have something now that I can hold on to and focus my intention on in order to support delivering the healing vibrational frequencies at a cellular level.
This episode is brought to you by Organifi. And my friends over at Organifi are hooking you up with 15% off the entire store. Yep, the entire store. All you have to do is head over to Organifi.com and use the code Heather to save some moolah. You guys ask me all the time, Heather, how do you have so much energy? How are you basically reversing the aging process? And I just have to say that the green juice and the red juice from Organifi are two of my secrets. I don't go a single day without a scoop of my red or green juice. And just a little PSA, right now they even have a pumpkin spice flavor, and it's outrageous. I don't take a lot of supplements, but I'll be honest, it's hard to get a lot of the vitamins and minerals we need from food alone these days. So that's why I use a high quality product like Organifi to ensure that I'm supporting my brain health, liver health, immune system, detoxification, and most importantly, my energy levels. The green juice is amazing first thing in the morning because it contains superfoods that help to lower cortisol levels. And it's 2020. Has it got you stressed? This is going to be a game changer for you to help reset your entire body for a focused and energized day. To have your red or green juice or any other amazing Organifi product delivered to your doorstep, head to Organifi.com and use the code Heather for 15% off.
So I love this thing.
Oh, I love it too. And people will say, they'll say, is this just a placebo effect? Because as you say, having something really tangible in your hands, it's like when you have a place to pretty much, you can put your beliefs on the back of something tangible. It creates this separation, right? Where it's like our programming can't beat it because it's like, oh, my beliefs is on this thing just outside of me. And the Healy can like carry that belief. Right. And there can so people are like, is it a placebo? And the argument is, no, it's not a placebo because we're using it with pets. And I mean, pets are responding incredibly well to these healing frequencies.
My anxious dog.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, he's got serious anxiety. He has separation anxiety. He is so obsessed with me. And so, yes, I have been using it on him to help with some of the separation anxiety he experiences. And I find that when I do it pretty frequently, his separation anxiety improves. But then when I don't do it, he kind of falls back to his old typical behaviors.
Isn't that fascinating? That programming just in humans and animals just is so ingrained. The consistency is a big deal. But what I love about this conversation is that it can be an and also, right? Like we can strengthen our beliefs. We already know that what we believe, whether it's true or not, creates our reality. So awesome. Let's have a placebo and actually receive the science of these healing frequencies.
Right. How funny is it that about 95% of what we house in our belief system are all lies?
No wonder why it's so hard to change.
Exactly. Yeah. Programming starts at a very, very early age. And I love the fact that I can just pull out this device and run a more favorable program on myself to get me in alignment with how I actually want to think and feel. So beautiful.
Yes. Reprogramming in an effortless, safe way.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell the listeners who could benefit from this healing device. Who is the perfect person for this?
Right now, so because it's so innovative and so kind of new and so, to me, disrupting probably the traditional medical industry and pharmaceuticals and the way our world is built right now around medicine. So right now, who is really call? You want to ask?
Well, I was just going to say, I'm going to be very honest with you. I feel like this device is an absolute direct threat against our medical system. And when people start catching on to the potential of this healing device, they're going to realize the medications that they're pumping themselves full of are not actually healing them at all. They're just contributing to the problem. So I'm curious, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that that's probably, if I were to say there's one fear I have around this, and I can't say it's fear. I think the only thing that could interfere with the power of this consciousness that's coming through this device would be the fight back from the old systems. However, we already know that love is always more powerful than fear, and that those fear-based attacks that worst case scenario, the fear-based attacks that could ever come don't stand a chance to the consciousness that is infused in this possibility and potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like those that have their hands on the Healy, they are very fortunate. They're very blessed. Get yours while you can. We see what's happening right now with censorship. It's absolutely absurd. And, I'm not going to lie. I feel like this is a huge threat. And so I am curious to see how things are going to move forward with the information of the healing potential getting out to the masses, and the potential for raising our consciousness without us having to put a ton of effort towards that act in itself. I am a huge advocate. I feel very, very strongly that with the way that we here in America, we are consumers. We are consumers of medicine. We're consumers of toxic, you name it. The foods, alcohol, recreational drugs. We're constantly seeking some form of, what's the word I'm looking for? We're seeking some sort of fix to try and numb ourselves out from what we actually are feeling. And I personally feel that this device has the ability to wipe out a lot of those vices that we're turning to on the norm right now, and that there is a huge potential for an increase in consciousness and love and self-love and self-acceptance and letting go of judgment and all of the things that are keeping our society so toxic. So
I so agree with you on every single level. And I think that's where, back to your original question, who is this for? There's two big camps of people that are being called into Healy right now. And the first camp is those of us that have been on this consciousness journey. We've been waiting for new innovation. We've been waiting for a new way, something that you could feel is so much more aligned with an intention of healing and love as opposed to fear and greed. And so it's just calling high conscious people in droves. Even just some numbers, this company is less than 2 years old. We've already crossed the 100 million mark. It's in over 100,000 homes. And we're still not in some of the biggest countries that are just going to be excited to have this technology in their country and in their life. And then the other camp is people who have tried everything through traditional medicine, and the pain is still there, and the mental health challenges are still there. And they're really in that state of kind of desperation and really craving that healing after exhausting everything else that's already available. And that's where we're seeing incredible stories of healing, mind-blowing, miraculous stories and experiences using this technology. And so those are the two camps that I'm seeing, just like really just feeling the effects of the power that's contained in this technology. And then there's this whole middle group that's like, they're not sick, but they're kind of still part of the masses. What I see happening, and you're so visionary, Heather, you probably are seeing the same thing, is that as we're healing on this one spectrum of people who are in immense pain and have exhausted and they're losing hope, their consciousness is going to quantum leap with this device. And then those of us that have been on this consciousness journey and who are seeing the potential here, what's going to happen is our own collective entrainment. So here the Healy comes in and entrains incoherencies in our own physical cellular makeup. Now we're going to see a collective entrainment where the power of our consciousness and our consciousness shifts, and the power of these people who have almost lost hope and have hope again is going to now entrain the middle group of people into this kind of new way of healing and hope. That's my vision as a visionary and a deep believer that love will always win.
I love that. And it goes back to energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It's just transferred. So if we can get the masses vibrating at a higher conscious frequency, then we have the ability to truly have heaven here on earth now. Now, like we don't have to wait. It's now. So I too also really have a lot of hope for this device specifically and its potential in terms of impacting our collective society. I think that there is a lot of great things that can happen, but I do have my fears. I do have my fears around our censorship, and just in the short time that I've been using this for a few months, I see the benefits just for myself. It almost becomes addictive. You want to run the scans, you want to see what's going on. And it never ceases to amaze me that something will pop up and I'll be like, oh shit, that's what that is. Okay, I didn't realize. But I have an intolerance to dairy and wheat. And over the weekend, I was craving some bad food. So I decided that I was going to not go down the wheat train, but I would at least explore the dairy train a little. And as a result of that, when I ran my scan yesterday, allergies came up. And I totally had forgotten that I had this processed cheese, like totally forgot. It's not even real cheese, it's fake. And so anyway, yesterday I run my scan, immune system comes up, skin comes up, allergies come up, stomach comes up. And of course, I was having nonstop diarrhea all day yesterday. Why? Because I had the processed cheese. My body was like, we don't know what to do with this stuff. It's foreign. Let's get it out. So anyway, long story short, it was just kind of funny. It's validation. Oh, look, here I intentionally sabotaged myself through the use of cheese. And here's the evidence presenting throughout the data in my Healy, showing me exactly what kind of impact it had on my physiology. So I find it fascinating. I love it. I'm addicted to it. What can I say? I take it everywhere with me. I travel with it. When I'm on the plane, in the car, I'm running programs. I love the fact that you can multitask with it. That's another really awesome highlight, is that I can still use this device and get other things done without feeling like I'm tethered to some daunting practice. Like for me, unfortunately, meditation does feel like many days. So.
Oh, it goes right back to the number one question we hear over and over again when we talk about the Healy is, how does it know? And here you just had this perfect example, this perfect story, that the question, even when we kind of understand conceptually how it knows, it still knocks your socks off every single time. It's like, oh my gosh, it knew again. Like, how does it know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It's fascinating. I have ran scans on dozens and dozens of people, and every single person that I run the scan on, they're like, holy shit, how does it know that? I'm like, I know, right? And then I like to say, well, how does your cell phone know to find me when you try to call me? It's the same kind of technology. I think that people forget that our cell phones are made out of crystals. Just little crystals hold all of this power. The reality is we aren't really any different than the energetic vibrational frequency that this crystal I'm here holding also holds. So if we can let go of what's the word I'm looking for? I know for me, it required me having to let go of the unseen, the untangible, and be open to receiving the potential.
Yes. Yes. And that's really what's, as hard as that is for us as humans. It's so simple. It's just one simple choice and you're open up to all this possibility. It's so simple. I am open to receiving any and all frequencies for my highest good. That's it. That's the only intention that needs to be set when you're using your Healy, and just allow.
I love that. So for the average person who's listening, who's interested in this mysterious thing that we're talking about, what is your recommendation on how one gets started with using this healing device?
Yeah. So first and foremost, connect with Heather or somebody that you know has one of these devices in their hand. How Healy is spreading its message is like this. It's through social connection. It's the only way. You're not going to find it on Amazon. You're not going to find it on the stores. And the shelf of a store, we wouldn't be connecting in this way. We wouldn't be sharing in this way. And so, yeah, it's just a beautiful way to get your hands on a Healy. The only way you get a Healy is through connection with other people who have this technology in their hands.
Yeah. What a great concept. I love that. I love that. So where can people find more information about the Healy if they're curious?
So the first place that I love to send people is there's a Facebook group. It's called The Frequency Experience. It's so inspiring. There are thousands of testimonials, thousands of experiences. And if you're somebody who has a specific condition that you're wondering if the Healy would help, use the search function in that Facebook group. And about 90% of the time, you'll see people's experiences of using the Healy for that specific condition and what's happened as a result of it. So it's just a beautiful way to connect it to all the possibilities, especially on the physical level, and how this is changing people's lives. So that's the first place I recommend going. You're not going to get a lot of information on the Healy there, but you're going to see what it is doing for people, which is the stories. Yeah. As far as getting more information on the Healy, YouTube's a great resource. There's some phenomenal videos, whatever your primary interest is. If you want to dig deeper into the science, if you want to dig deeper into the spirituality of it, just a YouTube search, you'll be able to grab a bunch of videos. And then the key is just who's your connection? Who's the person that you already know has their hands on one of these devices that then you can reach out to and experience a scan for yourself. And have more specific kind of conversation and get your questions answered from that person. And obviously, if you don't have somebody that already has their hands on this, you know Heather now, you know me now. And so just don't hesitate to reach out to the people that you're hearing about Healy from, that you resonate with, to get your questions answered and to experience it for yourself.
Yeah. So Stacy, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I also want to share my own personal experience since using the Healy device. But for you specifically, what have the biggest benefits been that you have tangibly seen in your own physical, mental, spiritual body since using this device?
Oh my gosh. So for me, it's like you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Right. So I've had this device in my hands for about 4 months. And I have to say, when I first got it, I was shocked at how exhausted I was feeling. There was like a purging that was happening as I was coming into this healing. And now as I reflect back, it's this overarching subtlety. So for example, one thing that was consistently showing up for me on an aura scan was around my heart chakra. And I feel like I've been a heart-centered entrepreneur for the last decade, yet it was saying things like, and some of the stuff that comes up on an aura scan is a little jarring. It was saying things like, you have a hard time loving people. It was like, what? I love people. But what it did was it started helping me realize the incredible wall I did have across my heart. Like in my marriage, how emotionally distant I was with my kids. I mean, this is really deep stuff that I was completely unconscious to. And so these walls started coming down, and I thought I was experiencing love before. I'm experiencing a depth of love in my marriage, with my husband, with my kids, with my clients. My entire business model is changing. While I thought it was very heart-centered, there was still so much hidden ego inside of it. It's like truly authentically coming into a deep place of love for humanity and the earth, which has been eye-opening, because I thought I was kind of already there, and there's a deeper level, and there's no question there's deeper levels beyond this. But it's been a big heart opening for me over these last 4 months. And in 4 months to break down the walls of a heart of a 40-year-old woman, it's like huge.
The amount of talk therapy that you would have had to have done in these 4 months to be able to have this epiphany, crack open this part of your ego, and really be able to go within, reflect, and take necessary action. Priceless. Absolute priceless. I know for myself, I can't imagine not having had the Healy the last couple of months, specifically with everything that we have going on in our world politically. For me, it's just, wow, I don't understand how people are walking around with such eyes closed, such disconnect, their egos just so full blown, and there being a very specific narrative and agenda behind everything that we're experiencing right now. And it's very much tied to our medical system, our pharmacological practices, as well as our big food. And so these are all things that I'm very passionate about doing advocacy around, to helping educate individuals that we truly are being poisoned. We are being poisoned at a cellular level, and it's time that we start stepping up and taking action for ourselves so that we really have the ability to change. And I feel that for me personally, the Healy has so much potential. I know that since I have been using it over the last 2 months, what it's done to my metabolism is out of this world. I have reached weight lows that I have not been at since I was literally 17 years old. And for me, it just goes to show how powerful the vibrational frequency has it getting rid of those imbalances at a cellular level to allow for nutrition and exercise to be optimized at a cellular level. I can't eat enough food. People are like, holy shit, girl, like what's happening to you? And I'm like, believe it or not, I am consuming a crap load of food, but that my body is just so optimal. Everything has clicked, it's in alignment, and it is functioning very optimally at a cellular level for me, which is very, very exciting. Being that I do have an autoimmune disease and have, had a lot of issues over the last 27 years of my life since my original diagnosis of IgA nephropathy. And to see how I have the ability to take control of how I feel utilizing lifestyle circumstances. And I feel that this Healy was the last piece of the puzzle to let everything click and just optimally flow. I feel like a furnace. Like my heart center is literally just bursting with love, and I am burning calories like exponentially just through love. Just through the act of love.
I love that. Burning calories with the love that's emanating out of the world. Like, is there anything better than that?
Right? No, I feel like a Care Bear. Remember the cartoons where they would like open up their heart centers and send the rainbow of love to others? That's how I feel. That's how I legitimately feel when I'm interacting with other people, that I can just unlock that heart center, flow the love directly to another individual. And it's the most powerful, beautiful thing I ever imagined experiencing in my lifetime. And I feel very blessed to wake up and have the ability to do it over and over and over again. So just like we choose to wake up and feel like shit, we can choose to wake up and feel absolutely amazing if we put some intention behind it. And for me, that's what the Healy allows me to do.
Ugh. A to the woman on that one.
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's next for Healy?
Oh my gosh. I think, we're just barely scraping the surface here. And like all brand new companies and new innovations, we've certainly had our growing pains. And yet just the pure intention of the company, the founder, the people who are bought in, it's our first big vision is that this is in a million homes, 10 million. I don't know. It all seems small because I can't see a reason why this technology wouldn't be in every single home.
Right. I think it's like having an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple computer. They should be in all homes. Agreed.
Yes. So the sky, we're just getting started, and it feels so exciting for the people that this is speaking to. It feels so exciting to be on the leading edge of innovation like this. It just feels so exciting.
So is there hope for someone who is not conscious yet, who haven't explored into the depths of their own consciousness? Can they still utilize this kind of device and tangibly have, positive things happen from it?
Yeah. And I would actually argue that, I kind of, through my own just kind of witnessing, it seems like there's an inverse relationship. So the higher levels of consciousness that you have, the more subtle the experience with the Healy is. Mm-hmm. And again, it just takes some reflection to actually uncover like the power that it's had in your life. And the less conscious people that are stepping into just having some level of trust and experimentation and playing with this technology it's like, boom, like I've had people who they'll run a program for 2 minutes and the pain that they've had in their back for decades is gone, it's like, but I'll have I'll feel a little, like right now I have a little something going on in my eye and I'm like, ooh, yes, I'll run the Healy, I'll run the release program, which is for any and all origins of pain. And it's like, my eye's still a little sore this morning. So it feels like there's a little, like consciousness just has a lot of grace for people who are just beginning their journey. And those of us that have been on the journey for a little bit longer, it's like, we don't really get away with much. Like it gets a little bit harder the further along the path you go.
Absolutely. I love that answer. Oh, that's fabulous. Well, Stacy, I am so thrilled that we had an opportunity to connect this morning and talk about the Healy device and its healing potential that can be utilized on a mass scale. I'm really, really excited to see where this journey takes me personally and professionally. I know that it's something that I'm incorporating as a non-negotiable in my own health healing journey, as well as those that work with me. So so thank you very much for an opportunity to interview you and talk a little bit more in depth about the Healy and its potential and how it all got started. So where can the audience find you?
So I can be found at wealthyminimalist.com. And that's, again, it's not so much Healy focused, but on this deep belief that as we transfer more of the world's wealth into the hands of high conscious people, that will change the world. And Healy is a perfect example of that. It's backed by high conscious people. And now there's a technology that's changing the world. So.
Well, I am so grateful for this technology and the ability to be one of the pioneers behind getting it out to the masses. I'm excited to see where this journey goes and look forward to having an opportunity to work so closely with you as we try to spearhead this movement.
Me as well, Heather. And what an incredible gift. I'm so grateful for you and to be on this journey of sharing this deep message of healing and well-being.
Absolutely. Well, Stacy, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I will make sure to link all of the notes in the show notes so that people can find you easily. And I guess we'll go from there. I look forward to having you come back on and talking more in depth as we both continue to experience more amazing things from this technology that we are utilizing.
Wonderful.
Thanks for joining us on the Think Yourself Healthy podcast. Make sure you leave a review and let me know what you think. I love reading your feedback. Come hang out with me on Instagram at Heather Duranja, and don't forget to take a screenshot that you're listening to the podcast and tag me. I love to share it. See you on the next episode.